Well, hey, howdy, hi. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by to join me today. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ellie, and I'm a witch. This over here is my teaching assistant, Andy, and today is Monday, and on my channel that means it is Misheard History, and today's Misheard History topic is the history of Cripple Creek, Colorado. Now, I did promise last week that I was gonna be out in the wild in Cripple Creek to do this video, and I sure did try. Same thing with yesterday's video, all of the footage is corrupted and I can't get it from my camera to my computer, so unfortunately I don't have any footage of it, it sucks, but I'll definitely have pictures of what the town looks like and all that in this video anyways. It just kind of sucks because I don't go out on my own, and I did, and now there's no proof that I was out on my own. It is a little bit different of a week though because I do not have a true crime case coming out tomorrow because of how everything got all weird with trying to film last week. There was a whole bunch of storms in Colorado, or at least in the springs, and there was a whole bunch of brownouts, and anytime there was a brownout my computer would just shut itself down. So I wasn't able to record the Ivan the Sixth video for my Misheard History last week, and I didn't finish the script for Jeannie the Feral Child for this week. So I am doing Ivan the Sixth tomorrow, and then next week I will actually be talking about Jeannie the Feral Child. But that's enough talking, let's go ahead and jump into the history of Cripple Creek. So Cripple Creek was actually a town founded thanks to the gold rush, and this town has certainly had its ups and downs. Now, Bob Womack found gold in what would become Cripple Creek in 1890. At the time, it was known as Poverty Gulch. After the initial discovery, thousands of prospectors came to try out their luck. It did become known as the world's greatest gold camp and had about 500 mines in Cripple Creek and Victor area. In total, 22.4 million ounces were collected, and in today's currency, it was worth about $11.2 billion. Now, unfortunately, the gold boom only lasted a short time, and by the 1940s, the gold mining was down to less than 1% yield of what it had originally been, and the town population plummeted to only 600 residents. Now, luckily for the town, when gambling was legalized in 1991, they saw their opportunity to get people back to town. Now, to get a little bit more specific into the history of the town, let's go back to 1894, which is when they officially named the district Cripple Creek. This was also the same year that we see the Cripple Creek mining strike. Now, the strike lasted 5 months and is the only time in history the state militia has been called out in support of the mine workers. Now, the catalyst of the strike was the silver crash in 1893. The price of silver dropped, but the price of gold remained the same. This led the silver miners to begin working in the gold mines. This also meant that the wages were being lowered to accommodate a larger workforce, but the mine owners were expecting longer hours for less pay. In January of 1894, 3 owners, you have J.J. Hagerman, David Moffett, and Eben Smith, lengthened the workday from 8 hours to 10 hours with no change to the daily wage of $3, which is about $106 today. The workers, of course, argued, so the 3 men said that the workers had the choice to work 8 hours instead, but at a day wage of $2.50. Now, this was extremely upsetting, but the 3 men employed about 1/3 of the area's miners, so the workers feared that their upset would result in nothing. At this time, the workers had actually began to unionize, and at the time of the shift length change, the Cripple Creek Union had joined the Western Federation of Miners, the WFM, and created Local 19. On February 1st of 1894, the mines officially put into practice the 10-hour workday. Then Union President John Calderwood issued an official notice just a day after the change, demanding the workdays be changed back to 8 hours a day with $3 day wage. However, the notice went unanswered and a strike started February 7th. A few smaller mines immediately reverted to the 8-hour workdays and remained open, while the larger mines refused. At the month mark, the smelters were feeling the effects of the strike, and some of the larger mines did reopen after accepting the 8-hour shifts. The mines that were still holding out began to hire strikebreakers, also known as scabs, and on March 14th they obtained an injunction to prevent the union from interfering in mining operations. The union tried to convince the scabs to join the union and strike, but with no success. So instead, they resorted to threats of violence, which were successful in driving the strikebreakers out of town. Then on March 16th, a group of armed miners ambushed 6 sheriff's deputies. Now they were on their way to Victor, and the group fought with the deputies, and the 2 deputies were injured, one hit with a club, and the other was shot. Now the sheriffs were actually charged with concealing a weapon and disturbing the peace, but were shortly released. Now after this assault on the deputies, Sheriff M.F. Bowers sent a request to the governor asking that the state militia be sent to help settle the conflict. Then Governor Davis H. Waite dispatched 300 troops. However, all they found in Cripple Creek was tension, and Calderwood stated that the Union workers would cooperate and would not fight if arrest was necessary. Due to the cooperation, the militia felt that it was unnecessary to stay and they were recalled. As a result of the militia being recalled, the mine owners completely closed the mines. Bowers then arrested Calderwood, 18 miners, as well as the mayor and marshal of Altman, who had been openly in support of the strike. They were all taken to Colorado Springs and tried on several different charges, but were all found not guilty. During the trial, though, Cripple Creek was not quiet. There was several violent interactions between the Union employees and the scabs, as well as a lot of looting going on. In early May, the mine owners met with the WFM and agreed to return to the 8-hour workday, but at a wage of $2.75. The Union turned down the offer, and the strike continued. After the negotiations, the mine owners secretly met with Bowers. They explained they were going to bring in hundreds of non-union workers, and they wanted protection from the sheriffs. Bauer told them that he was unable to do that as they did not have the funds to recruit and arm enough staff. The mine owners then offered to pay for 100 men, and Bowers agreed. He then began recruiting ex-officers and ex-firefighters from Denver. However, news that the mine owners were meeting with Bowers quickly leaked, and the miners began to arm themselves and organize in preparation. Calderwood was busy raising funds for the strike and so appointed former Army officer Junius J. Johnson to take charge. He immediately set up camp atop Bull Hill. Now he ordered that fortifications be built, complete with a commissary, and that the miners began training drills. On May 24th, the miners seized the Strong Mine on Battle Mountain, and the next day 125 deputies showed up and set up their camp at the bottom of Bull Hill. As the deputies started to make their way to the miners' camp, the shaft house was blown up. This sent the structure some 300 feet into the air. Next was a steam boiler that exploded mere moments later. The deputies were showered in timber, iron, and cables. Immediately they fled town, not even willing to consider fighting. On May 26th, the mine owners once again met with Bowers, and they agreed to put up the funds for Bowers to recruit 1,200 more troops, which he began recruiting immediately. The plan was to set up camp in Divide, which is about 12 miles from Cripple Creek. However, when Governor Waite learned about the plans, he intervened. On May 27th, he issued a notice for the Bull Hill camp to disband, and that the 1,200-person sheriff group would be illegal. He also put the state militia on standby to watch for movement in Cripple Creek. Then on May 28th, he personally visited the miners, who then authorized him to negotiate for them. A meeting was called and held on Colorado College campus, but a mob stormed the meeting, calling for the lynching of Waite and Calderwood, who luckily escaped from the mob. A second meeting was held on June 2nd, this time in Denver, and an agreement was reached on June 4th. The agreement was that the 8-hour workday with the same $3 wages be reinstated, and the mine owners also agreed to not retaliate against the strikers. This was not the end, though. On June 5th, the illegal militia group led by Bowers got out of hand, and he was no longer in control. They began moving towards Cripple Creek, assumingly to attack Bull Hill. As a result, Waite dispatched the state militia, but by the time they arrived, the violence had already started. Gunfire was being exchanged between the deputies and the miners on Bull Hill. The deputies had begun arresting citizens who had nothing to do with the strike and with no cause. But arrest was not the only thing the innocent citizens were facing. The deputies kicked them, clubbed them, and generally beat them. The militia was not idle, though, and by nightfall they had seized control of the town and contained Bowers and his men. Waite then threatened to declare martial law, but the mine owners were not willing to disband the deputy group. The militia said they would spend the next month making sure the group was harmless, and the mine owners caved. That is what Cripple Creek is most well known for, the next thing being the gambling. But there is another thing that Cripple Creek is known for, and that is two devastating fires that should have leveled the town. In the early afternoon of April 25th of 1896, a fire broke out on the second floor of the Central Dance Hall on Myers Avenue, which was in the middle of the business district. The fire started due to an overturned gas stove. Now, the volunteer firefighters were able to manage the fire for a bit, but thanks to burst hoses, poor water pressure, and small water mains, they struggled to keep control, and after an hour, the water ran out completely. The fire quickly engulfed gambling dens and parlor houses on the same block. The firefighters resorted to demolishing the buildings using dynamite to create a kind of firewall and stop the fire from spreading. After 4 hours, the fire was extinguished, but 300 buildings had been destroyed, $700,000 worth of damage done, and a confirmed 2 residents killed. Rebuilding efforts started the very next day, but that was not the end. On April 29th, just 4 days later, another fire started. A chef had spilled grease on the stove, which ignited immediately, and the fire spread through the kitchen quickly. Volunteer firefighters were once again called to the scene. Now the fire spread from building to building, being pushed by strong winds. When the fire reached the grocery store, 700 pounds of dynamite were ignited, which only ignited more fires and strengthened the blaze. The water mains were still dry due to the fire from just days prior, so there was not much that the firefighters could do. Residents began fleeing, and camps were set up outside of town as people watched all they knew and all they owned go up in smoke as they sat helpless. The fires destroyed more than 1,000 homes, damages totaled more than $3 million, and more than 5,000 residents were displaced. The town of Cripple Creek was not alone, though. Surrounding towns and cities sent train cars with food, water, and supplies, and rebuilding efforts began on April 30th of 1986, and it took about a year for the new construction to be complete. The town is stronger for having had the fires, or at least that's how the residents saw it. Cripple Creek lost few residents, as everyone was willing to put in the work to stay. The new buildings were made of brick, which was a stronger material, and they focused on paving the streets and fixing the water supply problem. There were additional fires that broke out and were notable in the years 1898, 1919, and 1936, though not nearly as bad as the fires of 1896. And that is all that I have for you. I'm sure that there's some stuff I missed. Oh yeah, Cripple Creek still has a very profitable gold mining operation going to this day, and that's kind of how the town survives. Other than the gambling, I guess that's not technically their main source of income. I guess it is the gold mining, which is really interesting. Most of the gold rush towns that you see don't stay open that long or don't have any type of mining left to be done. Anyways, like I said at the beginning of the video, no true crime video coming out tomorrow. Instead, I'm going to be talking about Ivan the Sixth as another Misheard history video, and then next week it'll return to regular scheduled programming. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video or at least took something from it. If you know something that I missed, please let me know. I thought this was really interesting, and I've been to Cripple Creek several times now, and it is an adorable little town, and Victor too. I hope that everyone has a great rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.